Colorado adds 22 new mental health beds. Now we only need another 978. One issue with the shortage is that it slows down the justice system.
We're dealing at a time right now where we are at a perfect storm of a mental health crisis, a medical staffing crisis, and a crime crisis.
A challenge to how we vote in this state, specifically the signature verification process. A business owner from Colorado goes before the Supreme Court asking for a license to discriminate. A 23rd candidate for Denver mayor is getting out of hand. And a high school marching band performing in uniforms older than the musicians. We got plenty of school pride, just not much else. That tonight on Next. Colorado's severe lack of mental health beds creates layers of problems. We're about 1,000 of those beds short, according to a state legislator. Today, 22 new mental health care beds open. All right. One issue with the current bed shortage is that people have been waiting in jail for months rather than getting treatment to restore competency and stand trial. That's not good for those folks who are obviously presumed innocent until proven guilty, and it's not good for crime victims who are left waiting for justice. Here's Mark Salinger.
It is great to see you all here today. It is really a historic day.
In a situation where there are big problems, big scissors are used to celebrate small wins.
I think we have to start by saying every individual that's going to get help is something that we need to celebrate.
The celebration at the Colorado Mental Health Hospital in Fort Logan came with the opening of 22 new beds to provide competency services for people arrested with mental health issues. 22 new beds in a state where the wait list to get these services is more than 400 people long. Aurora Joseph is realistic about the challenges she's facing.
We're dealing at a time right now where we are at a perfect storm of a mental health crisis, a medical staffing crisis, and a crime crisis. And all these things come together.
Aurora is the newly appointed director of the Office of Civil and Forensic Mental Health. She knows the wait to access these services is far too long.
Some people are waiting 100 days. Others don't have to wait that long, and some are waiting longer.
Waiting in jail for the chance to get these services.
These are people who have not been found guilty of anything. They are simply incompetent to proceed with their legal case.
Judy Amabile is a Democratic state representative who's fighting to expand mental health services. We wanted to know how many beds she thinks Colorado needs to fix this problem.
It's important. It's a small step. It's more beds. In Colorado, we probably need 1,000 beds of one kind or another, and this is 22 beds. 22 beds, and the hope that this is a step in the right direction.
We're really about helping people, and if we can help one person, that's amazing.
Now, right now, there are more than 80 beds at the state hospital in Pueblo that are going completely unused because the state can't find enough people to staff them. The hospital in Fort Logan that you saw there has an additional wing with 22 additional beds. Kyle, that can't open right now either because of staffing problems.
And when we talk about this issue as it relates to the criminal justice system, we're talking about people's rights under the law.
Yeah, back in 2011, the state was sued for not providing competency services in a timely manner. And since about 2019, the department has been under a court-ordered consent decree, which helps guide all of this as well.
Mark Salinger, thank you. There's a new lawsuit that says the way that Colorado matches our votes to our signatures is unconstitutional and that it keeps valid votes from being counted. The plaintiffs in this suit include a veterans advocacy organization and a voter with impaired motor function. They say that Colorado's system of having election judges match your signature on your ballot to prior versions of your signature has led to tens of thousands of votes being wrongfully tossed out. The suit also argues that certain groups are more likely to be disenfranchised by this signature match.
So voters ages 18 to 21 are disenfranchised many times higher than older voters. And then the disproportionate or the disenfranchising effects of this law are most significant on younger voters of color. So if you look at the 2020 general election, young Black and Hispanic voters were disenfranchised at a rate almost or approximately 25 times as often as older white voters.
If election judges decide that a voter's signature is not valid or needs further review, then voters have 8 days after the election to fix it. This is the curing process that we talk about here. We know that not all those ballots get cured and then counted. In November's election, nearly 21,000 ballots statewide were rejected for signature issues. A spokesperson with the Secretary of State's office told us they don't track how many of those ballots with issues eventually get cured. They did say that the Secretary of State's office will defend Colorado's law that requires mail ballot envelopes to be signed. A web designer from our state is asking the U.S. Supreme Court for permission to discriminate against LGBTQ customers. The justices heard oral arguments in this case today. This isn't a case that's based on something that's already happened, like so many cases. This is basically a test case that's being brought by conservative attorneys who are looking for a way around Colorado's anti-discrimination law. Lori Smith is the owner of a web design firm called 303 Creative. She says that she wants to make wedding websites, but she does not want to make them for same-sex couples. She says it would violate her First Amendment rights. Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser says the anti-discrimination law is clear. If a business offers a product or service, it can't refuse a customer based on their inherent characteristics.
Colorado is trying to force me to create custom, unique artwork to promote ideas inconsistent with my faith and the core of who I am.
The basic idea is if you open your doors to the public, you have to accommodate all comers. You can't deny someone access to a product or service based on who they are.
The Supreme Court's expected to rule on this case in June. Right now, there's that 6-3 conservative majority on the court. 4 years ago, the court ruled that a baker from Colorado could refuse to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. But that case was decided on much narrower grounds and did not get into First Amendment protections. If you'd like to be Aurora's police chief, please let the city know. They're struggling to find anybody who wants that job. In the meantime, Aurora's second interim police chief gets sworn in tonight. Art Acevedo will replace previous interim chief Dan Oates. Oates is the former full-time chief who came back to help out in May. Acevedo's had some high-profile jobs. He's chief in Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, and Miami, Florida. He did not last long in Miami. He was fired after just 6 months. Acevedo has filed a lawsuit against the city, claiming that the firing was retaliation for his reform efforts. Aurora's last full-time chief, Vanessa Wilson, also claimed that she was fired for her reform work. The city says that wasn't it, that Wilson had lost the faith of officers and the confidence of city leaders. Colorado's looking to Canada for cheaper drugs. You know, Democratic Governor Jared Polis has been talking about this idea since when he first ran for governor 5 years ago, and he rolled out that plan today. The Polis administration is asking the feds to approve the import of certain prescription drugs like inhalers, diabetes medications. The state estimates that importing prescription drugs could save an average of 65% on drug costs compared to U.S. prices. If Colorado's proposal is approved by the feds, by the FDA specifically, the state would start working with 3 organizations, two pharmaceutical wholesalers, they'd import and export the drugs, and Rocky Mountain Poison and Drug Safety, which would report on the program's safety record. Governor Polis first signed a bill authorizing state leaders to come up with this plan back in 2019. Federal rules did not allow for importing certain drugs until a year after that. For a third straight year, you have helped buy a holiday gift for every kid in Denver's public housing. Your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign has raised more than $75,000. The way this works in Denver's public housing is parents sign up to get their kids on the list for the gift, and then the nonprofit Friends of Denver Housing Authority provides those gifts with their funds on a first-come, first-served basis until the money's gone. Your generosity will again make sure that the funds do not run out before every child gets a gift. Your Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns have now raised $10 million for Colorado's nonprofits. You passed that mark this past week, $10 million. As long as you're still willing to give a boost to a different nonprofit in our state each week, and as long as Next exists as a platform to connect us, we'll keep it going. 155 acres of opportunity. Denver City Council is expected to approve development tonight. Voters will get the final say. This is getting kind of funny at this point. There's a 23rd candidate in the race for Denver mayor, and a high school marching band with plenty of pride isn't too proud to ask for some help. Next. Denver's voters could decide the future of the Park Hill Golf Course next year. First, though, the development plan for that area needs City Council approval. It's expected that it will pass tonight after perhaps some hot public comment. The vote this evening is one step toward the redevelopment of that golf course that would then include 55 acres of mixed-use development, including what's being called affordable housing. This current proposal would set aside nearly 100 acres for open park space. The plan's drawn mixed community reaction for months now, and there are two city council members who have come out against it. Councilwoman Katie Sitabaka says that community input has not been considered in drawing up the plans. Councilman Paul Cashman doesn't like it, but for the opposite reason. He actually wants the city to purchase the land and take full control over the development plans. If this makes it past council, as is expected, it would still have to go before voters in April. There's a conservation easement on the land that limits how it can be used, and residents voted for a measure in 2021 that will require voter approval for any changes to those limitations. And then there were 23. A new face has joined the crowded race for Denver mayor today. His name's Al Gardner. He's an IT executive with experience on the Citizen Oversight Board. We'll hear from the 23, but we're also interested in who isn't running. Anybody out there who's not running. Ashley Wickham is a mother who works in healthcare. She's not running for Denver mayor. She told us she prefers to just kind of do everyday advocacy. But if she were running for Denver mayor, she says she'd focus on the city's infrastructure needs, like affordable housing.
It would be infrastructure. I think a lot of the big problems that we're seeing in Denver today have to do with infrastructure. We don't have the exact platform for good housing right now. We don't have a lot, in the form of safety when it comes to driving and some of the crime rises that we're starting to see.
We will hear from the candidates for mayor. Hope they're listening as well. Our interviews with some of the 23 people currently running for Denver mayor are on the next YouTube page. If you live in Denver and you've decided not to run for mayor, but you have a good suggestion for the next mayor, email us at next@9news.com. Our next question tonight comes to us from a viewer named Greg. Greg is fed up with hearing train horns near his house. He lives in one of RTD's so-called quiet zones, and he wanted to know what's the point of a quiet zone if he's hearing the horns. These are the rules, Greg. So RTD enforces what it calls quiet zones in certain areas, trying to make it easier for people who live near the tracks. In the quiet zones, the train operators are exempt from the requirement to hit the horn every time they approach a crossing. But it's not a guarantee that they won't use the horns at all. They're still required to use their horns for any kind of reasons, like if there's somebody standing on the tracks, or if there's animals on the tracks, if they have to signal an emergency, or if it's required by whatever routine operation they're running.
All right, well, we saw mild weather this afternoon here in Denver. Temperatures approaching 60 degrees in some spots, but of course we're cooling down now. 42 degrees where it feels like 37 out there due to winds coming in from the southeast at around 8 miles per hour. Now, we have been seeing those snow showers across the northern mountain ranges and the portions of the western slope there. We're going to continue to watch for that mountain to dip its way further south, but stay in the high country and western slope. It's not going to push its way into the front range or eastern plains. So we do have several winter weather advisories that'll be in effect. A lot of the ones, especially central and northern, will expire tomorrow, but then to the south we have others that'll start Tuesday at 6 p.m. and last all the way through Thursday morning. So we're going to continue to watch for more snowfall and strong winds in those areas, as well as avalanche watches and warnings. Now, the warnings are expected to expire tomorrow, but we do have avalanche watches that'll be in effect. This will be 12 a.m. Tuesday through 8 a.m. Wednesday. We're going to continue to watch for those avalanche conditions, specifically in the backcountry areas. Outside of that, we stay pretty mild, calm, partly cloudy overnight in Denver with those lows near 26 degrees as we continue to monitor that mountain snow off to the west. Tomorrow, another mild, partly cloudy, mostly sunny day. Those temperatures in the lower 50s. We're going to continue to watch for that snow again in the high country and western slope. Eventually, it starts to push its way further south, and this is where we get, or further east. This is where we get those very slight chances for snow late Wednesday into early Thursday. Those temperatures dropping into the mid 40s, which is actually pretty seasonal for this time of year. And then we start to dry out as we make our way into the weekend.
The Wheat Ridge High School Marching Band shines on the field. Look closer, though.
These pants are probably twice my age.
They could use some new drawers, among other things. Next.
School spirit is not a problem for the Wheat Ridge High School Marching Band. They've got plenty of that. But they're lacking some of the other stuff that other bands probably take for granted. Our photojournalist Byron Reed has the story.
Yeah, we have quite a history of winning marching band competitions. I'm Jacob Christensen. I'm a ninth grade student here at Wheat Ridge High School, and I am a participant in our school's marching band.
So I'm Kendra Graff. I teach at Wheat Ridge High School. I am the instrumental music director, which means that I teach band and orchestra. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of long weekends, nights, at football games, at competitions, at rehearsals. But the kids did a great job this year, especially for their first time really stepping out onto a competition field. Our uniforms have been cobbled together over the last 30 years. The pants are just old and dingy. Our pants are so old we can't even read the size tags anymore.
Yes, they are much older. Actually, these pants are probably twice my age, so.
The pants are about 30 years old. The shakos, gauntlets, and jackets are somewhere between 15 and 20 years old as far as we can tell. We have a tendency for all of these little pieces and parts to just come falling right off. Yes, these were uniforms that were in high school before I was in high school. Yes. Yes. It's just really hard when you're trying to start a competitive program. You want something that the students are proud of and excited about, and we're showing up in these uniforms that are being held together by, sometimes safety pins, sometimes duct tape, it all just whatever we need to do to get them out on the field.
To go out there and compete with new uniforms is just a totally different experience.
I really just think it's going to just add that extra excitement, that extra edge to next year's season.
So I'm really excited, and I'm really hopeful to kind of bring back that old Wheat Ridge is such a great marching band, and I'm really excited for the new beginning that will come with these new uniforms.
I'm just picturing those kids marching around while the pieces and parts are just falling off their uniforms. The band's booster group started a GoFundMe trying to fundraise $10,000 for the new uniforms with the hope that they can have them in time for their next competitive season in the fall. We're back with a blunt message about the Colorado outdoors and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is an invitation or maybe a warning about exploring nature. Fair to say this is not sponsored by Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The sign there says, "Go outside. Worst case, a bear kills you." A viewer named Julie Dolce spotted this word of warning in Lakewood. If you see something that says Colorado to you, send it our way. Email it to next@9news.com. Amy writes tonight, I like this idea. Since so many people are interested in running for Denver mayor and no one seems to want to be the police chief in Aurora, how about Aurora recruits from the mayoral pool? Anybody who wants to be in public service should be applauded. Maybe there could be a match. I like the way you're thinking. Just to be clear, we're not shading anybody who runs for Denver mayor. It's cool that many people want to be mayor. It's just going to be quite the field for voters to sort out. Ralph says, thanks for telling like it is and saying that the local web designer is pursuing a license to discriminate by refusing to design websites for LGBTQ couples. Less impressed with that segment was Chris, who writes, Kyle, you stink. Chris continues, you want to report what you want and how you want. Sometimes I like you, but disappointed in your discrimination and hypocrisy. And then Chris finishes with, I think LGBTQ people should move next to you. Holy wow. Okay. All right. There we go. Well, we ask for the feedback, and sometimes you give it to us. See you next time.